Bring it back on those hands. Let's go. Ready, go. Go, guys. Lateral, lateral, lateral. Linear, go, quick.
1998, I was actually training for my 4th Olympics. Pierre Lueders and I won an Olympic gold medal, historic first for Canada. Fast forward, another year, I was in Europe on the Europa Cup tour and I suffered a really bad crash. Spent 5 or 6 days in a dark room. I just decided I was done. So we made a decision to move home to PEI, and it's the spring of 2000, and I'm getting to know a young fella named Andy O'Brien, who's now a world-class, phenomenal strength conditioning specialist, a performance specialist, and he said, "Do you want to go to the Memorial Cup?" And he said, I went to Notre Dame with this kid named Brad Richards, and he's playing, do you want to go? And I said, sure. And so we jumped in the car and went to Halifax, and I met Richie, and that's really, Richie won the Memorial Cup and won the MVP for the CHL in the process, but he was about that big. And he was drafted by Tampa, and he'd already been to camp a couple of times, and they just told him to get stronger and get faster. And he asked me flat out, "Can you make me like you?" And I said, yes. And that's how it began. In the winter of 2000, I opened basically the first Eli Sport. The first installment of Dynamic Fitness was an old welding shop in the back of the school. The shirts were optional. There was a blender right beside the squat cage, and it was hardcore. The music was loud, but I started. That was the genesis of everything that we're looking at here right now, and it was really crude. It was heavy, sweaty, stinky, smelly, but I started getting results, and it wasn't a year, and the word got out what I was doing with Brad Richards. And next thing I know, I was training pods of 13, 14, 15-year-olds, and people like Adam McQuaid, Jared Connaughton, Andrew McNevin, Cass Rhinus. These people start showing up.
The guys that were training here already, they were the guys that I was looking up to and the guys that I was trying to follow in their steps. And if you were a hockey player or just an athlete in general and you wanted to take that next step, like this was the place to train.
You okay, Shay? Ah, super setting. Oh yeah, baby. That freak you out or what?
I had the privilege in the first 5 years of getting really awesome results, and getting scholarships for people, and getting them into places that they probably never would have gotten to, because I know what it was like. I grew up here, and there was no expertise.
I was so fortunate to have that, and it gave me the confidence knowing I was going to show up in camp and be in as good a shape as anybody, and that at least that I could compete with guys on the ice because I knew I was physically capable and ready.
We're not following trends, we're creating them. And that's I guess the biggest badge of honor for me. It's just like speed training for hockey players in 2000, people thought I was nuts for teaching Brad Richards how to sprint. We know that was not true, but people weren't ready for what I was doing in 2000, and they might not have been ready for what I was doing in 2008. And we just kept building on that and building on that. I'd always been a big believer of hydrotherapy. When I lived in Calgary, we were cold plunging in 1991, 12 to 15 times a month. And I knew my background was so heavily influenced by Europeans and European coaches, and I know that athletes from Europe were much more ahead of their time, and I just started doing it. And the evolution of, I'll say, PEI's first hot yoga and training facility really began in 2005. And basically it was me doing conditioning of different varieties, everything from spinning to lifting to calisthenics to core in that little 8x6 sauna.
I definitely got a lot of work ethic from both my parents and from seeing firsthand what it takes to be a pro athlete. I remember having scrambled eggs with Brad Richards at breakfast some mornings when I was 4 or 5 years old. I remember going to the Stanley Cup celebration at the gym when Brad brought the cup back.
As for liking it so far, it's probably the best weight training I've ever done. In terms of just overall explosive ability and overall strength training is amazing here.
Training with him has been really good. He seems to really care about you as an athlete and kind of what your goals are and trying to help you reach that goal.
He's really like one-on-one. He can really train you your best. I've gotten a lot stronger and faster. I've learned a lot of good habits of training.
So I've been on these journeys with athletes like Matthew Casely and Kurt McCormick, and we just took them from really knowing nothing about the sport, and 4 or 5 years later, you know, from 2004 to 2009, those kids were on the podium at the Canada Games in a province with no track. I've trained a sprinter from 11.6 to 10.6 and got him an NCAA scholarship. So those are hard things, and you become, I guess, a bit of an outlier when you're saying, okay, how does this happen when you don't have a track? And I grew up in PEI, no coaching, no track, and never had a coach until I was 22 years old, 23 years old. I now have the opportunity to work with people that are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and all the way up, and understanding that, you know, neuromuscular coordination is optimized between the ages of 7 and 14. People ask me, how young is too young? And I said, there's things that everyone should learn in that pathway, and most don't. You know, now there's YouTube, or they follow Instagram, and they take their kids out in the field and they push them, but it's not about pushing, because there's no sense doing something that's wrong, hard. And it's hard to teach people. It's like, no, I want you to run slow. It's like, no, I have to get faster. No, I need you to run slow, because you're never going to run fast looking like that. And people want to lift heavy weights, and you have to tell them. It's like, yeah, but we're going to slow down, and we're going to make your joints better, and we're going to make you a better athlete in this process. You're going to have better joint stabilization. You're going to have less injuries if you do this. And again, we're not guessing. To be a part of that, and you know, to take someone that's 160 pounds and skinny that has a chance to go make a lot of money, and you put 30 or 40 pounds on them, you know, over the course of a couple of years, and they play hockey at 200 pounds, that's not easy to do. And it takes trust on behalf of the client, and it takes a lot of knowledge and expertise. I realized then that I had an opportunity that they actually don't have to leave PEI. So that's really, I just dug in, and I started working with, you know, 30, 40 athletes a year in different sports, from swimming to, and I realized how big of an impact I was having on these people with respect to their performance. And I just kept going, and I haven't stopped. It's 25 years later. It just kept growing, and that's really that little shed in the welding shop in the back of the college. That was really the evolution of everything that's in front of us today.